shirt off. Take your shirt off. Plenty.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shirtless Plantain Show. This week, more classic players. If you want some news, go check out CNN. We don't do Fox over here. Let's get straight to the content. So this week, defenders. Yes, 14-year-olds, you can leave now. It's not the most sexiest thing to talk about. But they deserve their props because defenders make things happen. So we're going to start off with Cafu. Cafu is the most capped Brazilian player of all time. He went to 4 World Cups. He's actually the first player and only player to start in 3 consecutive World Cup finals. He won in 94 and 2002. He was there in 94, 98, 02, and 06. Cafu, I don't know what else to say. He played for some of the best teams at the best time. He played for Roma, he played for Milan. He only won 1 Serie A because Carlo Ancelotti's the manager. He also won Roma's only Serie A. And Cafu, I don't know what else to say about him, man. The guy's incredible. He could defend, he could attack. The guy had a shot on him. He was incredible. It's unfortunate that he is the second greatest Brazilian right back of all time, but he is the outcast to Dani Alves' Mobb Deep. So there's that.
And depending on what part of the world or what part of America you're from, that means very, very different things. So, but Cafu was really good. Like I remember him being the first fullback in my life that I remember thinking to myself, this guy's engine doesn't stop. He could just run all day, just run. And he also had a very interesting hairline. Go look it up. Google is your friend, and he's maintained that hairline to this day. It's still going backwards, but it's still there in its original form.
Yeah. I feel like we forget during that time, like he was one of the first really super attacking fullbacks. Like probably the first one that I remember. Now we see it all the time, with a lot of the top teams spending ridiculous amounts of money on fullbacks. Imagine how much Cafu would cost in this day and age now.
An arm and a leg?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Like, he was so good going forward, but very, very good positionally as well. He was someone that could adapt really, really, really well. There isn't a lot of players that got away unscathed from Henry, but I remember Henry going to Roma and slapping a hat-trick and Cafu struggling, but it's not his fault. But again, he wasn't completely and utterly, embarrassed that day, which is always a good achievement if you come up against Henry in 2003. So yeah, but he was really.
One of the really fascinating thing about Cafu to me was that if you look at his career, like a lot of the time when he won things, he was the guy lifting the trophy. Like when a guy comes from a whole nother continent to Europe and his leadership skills are recognized, even though there are Europeans there on his team as well, that to me is a big deal. Like I think he captained Roma at points, he captained Milan at points, he lifted the World Cup for Brazil. So, on top of everything else, he was a leader, and that's a big deal. He was like a Ramos type figure, almost.
If there's one word, and it's funny we're talking, this one word's probably going to be used for the next players we talk about, but I think if there's one word to encapsulate him, it's consistency. He was just remarkably consistent, and that was it.
There's another word that's going to describe the other 2 players, which is they're grown men, just adults, like they're legitimately just grown men. So the next player we're going to talk about, probably one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest defenders of all time, let's just talk about Lillian Thuram, man. Let's talk about Lillian. Because for me, before we start, Lillian Thuram was the best player in World Cup 98. Go ahead.
That's you know what? That's a fair shout because Zidane gets a lot of the props. He was a poster boy. But he missed like a full game in that tournament because he got a red card in the group stage. I think he got a red card against Saudi Arabia of all people. God knows what they said to him. It must have been some stuff about, it's Ramadan, I'ma chill. But he stomped on somebody. So really, to me, he was not the most consistent player in the tournament by default because he wasn't there. You know who was there? Thuram in every game. And when France was in trouble in the semifinal against Croatia, who scored the only 2 goals of his French footballing career? Lilian Thuram.
And he had the most iconic celebration.
And I think at one point, I can't confirm this because, the internet doesn't really care about defenders like that. But I think Lilian Thuram, when he moved from Parma to Juventus, I think him and Buffon went together. And at the time, he would have cost somewhere around like 40 million pounds. And I think that was a world record for a defender at the time, you know. And he was just, to me, Thuram was maybe the most athletic defender I can remember overall. Like when you think of all the things that constitute athleticism in a player, speed, height, physique, all that stuff. Like there was nothing missing from his game. Like I mean, there's no perfection in the sport, especially on the defensive end, but he's as close to a perfect defender as you could come.
Tenacious.
And on top of that, that's a good word for him. And I believe Arsene Wenger may have given him his first team debut when he was at Monaco. And they won like the French Cup togetro. So that's a nice little tidbit. But from there, it was just success after success for him. He played for Parma, played for Juventus, then only left because of that Calciopoli thing, you know, when we found out that Juventus was cheating. I'm sure they're still cheating today, but we'll find out in 20 years. Anyway, but yeah, then he moved to Barcelona and had success there as well. So Lilian Thuram is a fantastic defender, fantastic player. My pick for easily the best French defender of all time.
A good man, because he went to go work for UNICEF as an ambassador to combat racism. So shout out to him.
Honestly, this is a shirtless plantain show. We don't care about racism anymore.
Also, one last thing that we forgot to mention. He has a son, Marcus Thuram. And Marcus is actually like a baller. Like a real life legit. And it's funny, Marcus is a striker. And Marcus is literally like his dad, but a striker. Like just a tenacious, let's talk about Zanetti now, because we've had enough.
Which Zanetti? Javier Zanetti?
Javier Zanetti, the one and only. The one that has Lego hair.
You know, a lot of people won't agree, but I feel like he is the best right back I have seen. But you know, obviously, a lot of people disagree. They've got their favorites. But Zanetti to me is the if you talk about being a longevity merchant, but for all the right reasons, then it's Javier Zanetti, because I don't think he's ever had a game below a 7 out of 10. I think he was born at a 7 out of 10 level. He didn't get. It was a good birth for his. It wasn't an amazing birth, but it was nowhere near a bad birth. It was just everything he done was a 7 out of 10, down to his hair. His hair has remained exactly the same throughout his entire career.
Consistency.
That is it. All he knows is consistency. Every single he's woken up at 6 a.m. every single day for the last 30 years
and ate the same thing
on paper from the same spot for the last 30 years. He's drunk his milk at 9 a.m. from the same mug for the last 30 years.
Another South American that moved to Europe and became a talisman for a European team. Like, he's from Argentina, but he was basically Inter's captain for like 25 years or something.
And fun fact, you remember that treble that Inter Milan won? He was the coach. It wasn't Mourinho, it was actually Zanetti who was the coach.
He was 36 years old when they won that.
Right, and he was still at the top level of the game. You don't start for a European champion if you're not at the top level of the game at age 36, you know, so. But let me ask you this. Coach, let me ask you this. If you had to play one game for the safety of the world, if we had to defeat Corona in a soccer game, who would you start at right back? Cafu, Zanetti, or Thuram? Because they all played right back.
Yeah. Okay. I want to answer it in two parts. Thuram was a great right back, better centre back, I think.
Okay, that's fair.
Cafu, great right back, very consistent, not as good as Zanetti. So I think by process of elimination, I think it would be Zanetti. I think Zanetti's ability to be so orthodox and everything, like his technique was just textbook in everything he did. He was very much Professor X on Powerpuff Girls, right angles everywhere. Everything was just perfect.
Everything was done the right way all the time.
All the time. Every single time. When he ironed his clothes, you can believe the crease in his trousers was done with the most preciseness. Put it like this, yeah. If I could compare him to anything, I'd compare him to 98 Nas Fade. That would be him.
That's a good shout. That's a good shout. I think of him more as like, I think of Zanetti as like pizza. Like, you can't really have bad pizza, you know? Like pizza or even sex. Like, you don't have bad, like for guys, it's still good even if it's bad, you know? So that's Zanetti as a footballer. Even when he's bad, he was good.
This is the Shirtless Plantain Show, by the way.
But yeah, I mean, Zanetti was you know, the epitome of consistency over. We won't see another player like him ever again. I don't think. You won't see a player perform at that level for a top team and be the main guy, despite there being so many other stars coming and going, being the only consistent. You won't see another player like that, I don't think.
And I think that's why we didn't make any comparisons with these three players, because it's so hard to like find anybody in the modern game that's like Thuram, Zanetti, or Cafu. I mean, their model of consistency, their model of tenacity is just, it's rarefied air. I mean, I'm sorry like that we want to make these comparisons, but it's literally gonna do them an injustice. It's gonna even do the players an injustice to even compare to them.
Like, I think, and that's not a diss to the new players. That's just the way the game has gone. Like now there are more specialists in the game. Like you need to do one thing really well. Back then, a lot of players could do a lot of things really, really well.
I mean, we forget Zanetti was a great central midfielder / defensive midfielder as well. You know, he could play there. For Argentina, he played there really well. For Inter, he played there at times really, really well as well. So it's like, you know, you don't really get that now. You know, I mean, I know Pep tried to do a few things.
We got a couple guys, Lam, Alaba, and any of the Pep fullbacks basically will qualify. But besides that, you don't really see those guys anymore.
And Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker is only good at one thing, which is being wayward. But that's another story for another time. But yeah, I mean, these guys honestly just are the epitome of just consistency and just greatness. So if you guys want to continue to, you know, send us more players to talk about, we love this. We just love football. I mean, we have watched this basically our whole lives. So we just have knowledge on players. So again, don't forget to use the hashtag SPS. From us, we're out. Don't forget to also check out our social channels too. You guys take it easy. We'll be back with more content. Take it easy. Peace.
Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. Plenty. Take your shirt